Hi, I am Rahul Charles. In this PPT, we will discuss topics in Module 6 of the subject Energy Management and Auditing. Mainly this module consists of financial management. This is the syllabus of Module 6, Economic Analysis Methods, Cash Flow Model, Time Value of Money, Evaluation of Proposals, Payback Method, Average Rate of Return Method, Internal Rate of Return Method, Present Value Method, Life Cycle Costing Approach, Case Studies. We all know the importance of an energy auditor in an organization. Consider an energy auditor suggests a management in an organization such that some initial investment or some capital should be invested in new boiler plant. Generally, the management of that organization would ask two questions. How much will be the proposal cost? Second one, how much money will be saved by the proposal? So, while we are planning an energy efficiency or energy management related project, the investment involved should also be considered. And you know, energy projects are very important to the economy and environment. More the number of projects, it is better for the environment. But the problem is that whenever the number of energy projects are increasing, we have to consider finance also. Many energy managers have difficulty in understanding the variety of financial arrangements available to them. Therefore, the financial issues and some financial management techniques in energy saving projects are discussed in this module. So, what is the need for investment in energy conservation projects? It is for purchasing new equipment for the improvements in process, or to provide staff training, or to upgrade the energy information system. So, the following criterions are to be considered when listing investment opportunities: the energy consumption per unit of production of a plant or process, the current state of repair and energy efficiency of the building design, plant, services including controls, the quality of indoor environment, the effect of any proposed measure on staff behavior or staff attitudes. So, as an energy auditor, what is his importance in this investment need? Mainly, for the role of an energy auditor, it is for reducing the operation or production cost, increasing employee comfort and well-being. He is responsible for improving the cost effectiveness or profits in an organization, protecting some important activities which are underfunded or less funded, enhancing the quality of service or customer care delivered, and finally protecting the environment. To judge any investment, we should consider mainly four elements involved in the decision. One is the initial capital cost or net investment. It includes all costs associated with the preparing of the investment for service. It includes purchase cost, installation and preparation cost. Second one, net operating cash inflows, mainly the potential benefits. It includes revenues or savings resulting from the initial cost for the capital investment which is occurring in the future. Normally we calculate over a period of years. The cash inflows which occur during a year are generally summed and regarded as a single end of year cash flow. Then the third factor is economic life, that is time span of benefits. It is a period between the initial cost and the last future cash flow, which is generally regarded as the life cycle or life of the investment. Then fourth one is salvage value, that is any final recovery of capital. It is the terminal value of the investment which is attributed to the disposing of the investment at the end of its useful life. Such recoveries can be proceeded from the sale of facilities and equipment as well as the release of any working capital associated with the investment. Now we will discuss cash flow model. It is this term which is used to describe the amount of cash that is generated or consumed in a given time period. It is the most important tool for value investment analysis or investment opportunities. Actually, cash flow is the increase or decrease in the amount of cash of a business, in an institution, or for an individual. It provides information on profitability, quality of earnings, liquidity, that is cash, risk, capital requirements, future growth, dividends. Actually, this dividend means it is the distribution of profits by a corporation or company to its shareholder, a part of profit, distribution of profits. This is the typical cash flow cycle. Inflow represents the cash paid by customers. Outflow is the cash paid to suppliers and employees. And in this cycle, we have seen the cash flow cycle consists of stocks ordered from supplier, then production turns stock into products, stocks held until a customer is found, products sold to customers, then customers pay for their purchases. It is the simple cash flow cycle. Now, what are the classifications of cash flow? It is based on nature of transaction. First classification is operating activities. It is the cash activities or cash flow related to net income, that is cash generated from the revenue or sale of goods, and expense, cash paid for goods. So one is the sale of goods and another is the cash which is paid for goods. One is revenue and other is expense. The second one is cash flow related to investing activities. Mainly these are non-current assets. That means the non-current assets includes long-term investment, property, plant or equipment, then principal amount of loans made to other entities. An example is cash generated from the sale of land and cash paid for an investment in another company. It comes under investing activities. Next one is cash flow related to financing activities. It is the cash activities are related to non-current liabilities and owner's equity. These non-current liabilities include long-term loans or advances. And owner's equity means it is the amount that belongs to the owners of the business, which is shown on the capital side of the balance sheet. Generally, common stock, accumulated profits are all coming under owner's equity. Simply, owner's equity can be stated as owner's equity equal to assets minus liabilities. Next topic is time value of money. We know that value of money changes with time. Usually in energy conservation project, a project usually requires an investment for the initial cost of installation, that is capital cost, and a series of annual costs are coming, that is operating cost, maintenance cost, throughout the life of the project. To assess project feasibility, all the present and future cash flows must be equated to a common reference. Because, as I told earlier, the problem with equating cash flows which occur at different times is that the value of money changes with time. The concept or method by which these various cash flows are related is defined by the term discounting or the present value concept. For more clarification of time value of money, suppose you deposit a money in particular bank which is giving 10% interest, then rupees 100 which is deposited will be worth rupees 110 in 1 year time. Currently its value is 100. In 1 year time, this 100 is equivalent to 110 and the bank is providing 10% interest. Thus rupees 110 in 1 year, which is a future value, and that is equivalent to rupees 100 in the present value. The relationship between present and future value is given by the equation future value FV equal to net present value, that is NPV, into 1 plus I the whole raised to n, where I is the interest or discount rate, small n is the number of years in the future. That is net present value NPV equal to FV divided by 1 plus I the whole raised to n. For the evaluation of proposal, as per our K2U syllabus, we have to study 4 methods. One is the payback period method or simple payback period method. Number 2, average rate of return method, that is ARR method. 3, net present value method, that is NPV method. And finally, the internal rate of return method, that is IRR method. Mainly, these 4 methods can be categorized into 2 sections, that is methods that do not use present value, methods that use present value. That means average rate of return method and payback period method does not consider the time value of money. They do not use present value. And the methods that use present value includes net present value and internal rate of return method. Now the first method is simple payback period. As I told earlier, in simple payback period, the time values of money is not considered in the calculation. As a definition, simple payback period is the time required to cover the initial investment, considering only the net annual savings. An equation is first cost divided by yearly benefits minus yearly cost. This equation can also be written as simple payback period equal to capital cost divided by annual net savings. Annual net savings is the cost savings achieved after all the operational costs have been met. And we know once the payback period has ended, all the capital cost will have been recovered and any additional cost savings can be seen as a profit. Now, first problem. Calculate the payback period for a continuous deodorizer that costs rupees 60 lakhs to purchase and install, rupees 1.5 lakhs per year on an average to operate and maintain, and is expected to save rupees 20 lakhs by reducing steam consumption as compared to batch deodorizer. So we have to calculate the payback. So the answer is simple payback period is given by capital cost divided by annual net savings, or first cost divided by yearly benefits minus yearly cost. Here the capital cost is 60, yearly benefits minus yearly cost includes 20 minus 1.5, which is 3 years 3 months. Now second problem. A new small cogeneration plant installation is expected to reduce a company's annual energy bill by rupees 4,86,000. If the capital cost of the new boiler installation is rupees 22,20,000 and the annual maintenance and operating cost are rupees 42,000, calculate the expected payback period for the project. So here also we use that simple expression, that is capital cost divided by annual net savings. So the final answer is 5 years. Now we discuss advantages and disadvantages of simple payback period. Some of the advantages are it is simple both in concept and application because it does not use some tedious formulas or calculations. And second one is it favors projects which produce substantial cash inflows in earlier years and discriminates the projects which bring substantial cash inflows in later years. Some of the limitations are it fails to consider the time value of money, it ignores cash flows beyond the payback period. This leads to the discrimination against projects that generate substantial cash inflows in later years. It is a measure of project's capital recovery, not profitability. Our next topic is average rate of return or accounting rate of return. It is one of the important ratio used in financial management. As I said earlier, this average rate of return does not take the concept of time value of money, similar to simple payback period method. Another important point is average rate of return calculates the return, how much amount that we will be returned, which is generated from the net income of the proposed capital investment. Suppose you got average rate of return as 7%, then it means that our project is expected to earn 7 cents out of each dollar invested, and you know $1 equal to 100 cents. So it denotes how much amount which will be returned in future. If the average rate of return is equal to or greater than the required rate of return, then the project is acceptable, then it is good. If it is less than the desired rate, then it should be rejected. Then in this slide we will give an expression for average rate of return. Average rate of return is denoted by ARR equal to average annual profit the whole divided by initial investment. Then another formula related to average rate of return: total profit during project life or project number of years the whole divided by initial invested amount into 100, or ARR equal to average annual net cash flows minus annual depreciation expense the whole divided by initial investment. Then we will do a problem related to average rate of return. Some company XYZ Limited is thinking about undertaking a venture that would return yearly benefits of rupees 68,000 for a long time. The underlying expense of the venture would be rupees 800,000 and venture's assets would have a residual value of rupees 50,000 towards the end of the venture. What might be the accounting rate of return for this venture? So here a company is thinking about an undertaking a venture which will return an yearly benefits. So return benefited amount after devaluation is rupees 68,000. The expense for the venture is rupees 800,000 and the residual value of the venture is rupees 50,000, which is towards the end of the venture. This residual value means salvage value. That is, it is the estimated value of a fixed asset at the end of its useful life. So now an asset has some value. What will be the value at the end of its useful life in future? That value is denoted by the residual value. So the answer is average rate of return is given by average annual profits the whole divided by average amount invested in the project. So numerator has an average part and denominator also the average amount invested in the project. Here in this problem the yearly profits is rupees 68,000 and amount invested, average amount invested in the project is 800,000 plus 50,000 divided by 2. 2 denotes the number of years. Here salvage value or residual value should also be taken into consideration. So the final answer is 16%. Next problem is ABC company is looking to invest in some new machinery to replace its current malfunctioning one. The new machine, which cost $420,000, would increase annual revenue by $200,000 and annual expenses by $50,000. The machine is estimated to have a useful life of 12 years and 0 salvage value. Calculate ARR. Here in this problem the salvage value is 0. That is, it is the estimated value of that particular machinery at the end of the useful life. Here another data which is given in the question is the machine cost is $420,000 and when this machine is purchased the annual revenue will be increased by an amount $200,000. So it is the revenue that the company will get in future. The annual expense is 50,000. The number of years or useful life is given by 12 years. So here also our first step is to calculate the average annual profit. For 12 years we know the data given annual revenue is 200,000. So the total value is 2,400,000. Annual expense we can calculate, and in this machinery we have to consider depreciation also, because depreciation is the reduction in the value of machinery or that particular asset over time due to some wear and tear. It is also called devaluation, that is lowering in value of that particular asset in future. So over the life of an asset, or total, we are considering the total lives of an asset, or in this case this machinery, total depreciation will be equal to the net capital expenditure. So that is why we are taking the depreciation value which is same as the machinery value. So the net profit or total profit we get, it is for 12 years. Hence we have to calculate the average annual profit, which is divided by 12. And next step to calculate the ARR is to solve or to find average investment. Here the salvage value is 0, and hence the average investment can be calculated by substituting in the ARR formula. We get the value as 54.76%. This means that for every dollar invested, the investment will return a profit of about 54.76 cents. Next problem. LMN company is considering investing in a project that requires an initial investment of $100,000 for some machinery. There will be net inflows of $20,000 for the first 2 years, $10,000 in years 3 and 4, and $30,000 in year 5. Finally, the machine has a salvage value of $25,000. Calculate ARR. The difference compared to previous problem is, here also salvage value has to be taken into consideration. In the previous problem, its value is 0. The initial investment is 100,000, which is for purchasing some machinery, and inflows of that particular company due to the purchase of machinery is $20,000 for the first 2 years, $10,000 in year 3 and 4, and $30,000 in year 5. We have to calculate ARR. So compared to the previous problem, our first step is calculate average annual profit. We have to consider the inflows, depreciation that I have said earlier, and we find the annual profit or total profit. Here we get total profit, but we have to take annual profit. It is for, and hence average annual profit we get. Then second step is to calculate average investment. Here salvage value is 25,000, and hence by substituting the values we get average investment, and by directly substituting the values in ARR formula we get ARR equal to 4.8%. Then another simple problem. Calculate the ARR of a project whose details are given below. Investment value, profit after tax. The values are given for year 1 to 6. We have to find the value of ARR. We know ARR equal to average annual profits the whole divided by average amount invested in project. Here we take the average investment value, which is equal to 80,000 plus 90,000 plus 65 plus 60 plus 55 plus 50, the whole divided by 6, which is equal to 66,666. It is the investment value. And next we have to find the average annual profits, which is equal to 18,000 plus 22,000 plus 24 plus 28 plus 30 plus 32, the whole divided by 6. The answer is 25,666. So ARR equal to 25,666 the whole divided by 66,666, which is equal to 38.5%. Our next section is net present value, NPV method. This is another method, third method. The difference compared to previous two methods is this method considers the time value of money. It is a very important method. This method calculates the present value of all yearly cash flows which is occurred throughout the life of a project and summarizes them. And here costs are represented as negative values and savings as positive values. The present value is determined by using an assumed interest rate, which is usually referred to as discount rate. This discount rate is denoted by the letter K, small k. In this slide, there is an important formula to calculate the net present value. It is the sum of all present values. Higher the net present value, our project is more attractive. Net present value of a project is equal to the sum of present values of all the cash flows associated with it. Wording is all the cash flow, because cash flow denotes inflow and outflow, that is savings and expenditure. That summation is given by the net present value. Our formula is NPV equal to minus CF0 divided by 1 plus k the whole raised to 0 plus CF1 divided by 1 plus k the whole raised to 1 plus etc. plus CFN divided by 1 plus k the whole raised to n, which is equal to sigma t equal to 0 to n CFT divided by 1 plus k the whole raised to t. Here an important point to note is the first term is negative. As I said earlier, the savings are denoted as positive values and expenditures are denoted as negative values. Here CF0 denotes the capital investment, because we are investing an amount. It is expenditure, and hence first term we always take it as an investment term based on this formula, and hence CF0 value is negative. It should be remembered while doing problem. The first term is negative. All other values are the values corresponding to the savings or investment. Here NPV is the net present value, T is the cash flow occurring at the end of the year T, where T equal to 0, 1, 2, 3 etc. up to N. N is the life of project and K is the discount rate. So NPV in short, how to determine the net present value. Calculate the present value of cash inflows. Then second step, calculate the present value of cash outflows. Subtract the present value of outflows from the present value of the inflows. We get net present value. Here this slide gives the impact of net present value. If the net present value is positive, then our project is acceptable because it promises a return greater than the required rate of return. If the net present value is 0, then our project is also acceptable because it promises a return which is equal to the required rate of return. And if we are calculating a net present value and we got it as negative, then the project that we are decided to be chosen is not acceptable because it promises a return less than the required rate of return. So first problem related to net present value method. Here investment is given and corresponding savings also given. The cost of capital K for the firm is given as 10%. Sometimes in problem they are given discount rate or cost of capital. In NPV method, average cost of capital is same as the discount rate, and here it is given as 10%. So again I am repeating, the investment term is also given, the saving term is also given. Savings terms are considered as positive terms. Investment term, since it is expenditure, we are considering it as a negative term. So direct substitution, our formula is NPV equal to minus CF0 divided by 1 plus k the whole raised to 0 plus CF1 divided by 1 plus k the whole raised to 1, etc. up to CF5 divided by 1 plus k the whole raised to 5, because here the number of years is 5. First part is investment, it is taken as negative part. All other savings part we are considering it as a positive part. And discount rate or cost of capital is 10%. So 1 plus k, 1 plus 0.10 gives 1.10. That is why in all the denominator terms 1.10 appears. Final answer is 5273. Then another problem. Using NPV analysis technique, evaluate the financial merits of the two proposed projects shown in the table. The annual discount rate is 8% for each project. So here we have two projects, project 1 and project 2, and capital cost is also given. Annual savings for the two projects is also given. We have to find the net present value and we have to evaluate the financial merits. So which project is good? So we have to choose which one is better for our firm. So here also our basic formula, NPV equal to minus CF0 divided by 1 plus k the whole raised to 0, etc. up to CF10 divided by 1 plus k the whole raised to 10, because the number of year given is 10. And we have to calculate NPV for project 1 and NPV for project 2. So based on the value we get, we have to choose which project is better for our firm. So for the project 1, we get NPV as 10,254, and for project 2, NPV value is 10,867. So for a 10-year lifespan, NPV for project 1 is rupees 10,254, while for project 2 it is rupees 10,867. Therefore project 2 is preferential proposal. Also the NPV unit is in rupees, so we have to take care of that unit also. Then our another method to calculate the financial assessment, that is internal rate of return method. It is exactly similar to that of net present value method, only a slight difference. So here by setting the net present value to 0, the discount rate k can be computed. The internal rate of return of some project is the discount rate which makes net present value equal to 0. So the equation is same as that of the NPV method. Only thing is we have to choose the value of k which makes NPV value 0. That is NPV equated to 0, find k. Then the rate of return method is calculated by a process of trial and error, whereby net cash flow is computed for various discount rate until its value is reduced to 0. Here we have to choose the value of k which makes NPV to 0. So we have to do some trial and error calculations. In problem they are giving some discount rate, and while we do problems that value may not be sufficient to make NPV to 0. So we have some another methods to make the NPV to 0 so as to find the value of K. Then this method expresses each investment alternative in terms of a rate of return. The expected rate of return is the interest rate for which the total discounted benefits become just equal to total discounted cost. As I said earlier, the formula of internal rate of return is similar to NPV method. Here 0 equal to minus CF0 divided by 1 plus K the whole raised to 0 plus etc. plus CFN divided by 1 plus K the whole raised to N. That is, it is the discount rate which makes net present value equal to 0. Here also the first term we are considered as investment and all other terms as savings. The only thing is we have to choose or we have to find discount rate. And if this discount rate is greater than the current interest rate, then the investment is good. Then how to choose a project based on the internal rate of return? If the internal rate of return is equal to or greater than the minimum required rate of return, then it is acceptable. If it is less than the minimum required rate of return, it is rejected. It is similar to NPV method. Next is advantages and limitations of IRR method. Advantages: it takes into account the time value of money. It considers the cash flow stream in its entirety, that is entirely or whole. It makes sense to businessmen who prefer to think in terms of rate of return and find an absolute quantity like the net present value somewhat difficult to work with. So it is always preferred by the businessman. Then limitation: internal rate of return figure cannot distinguish between lending and borrowing, and hence a high internal rate of return need not necessarily be a desirable feature. So how to calculate IRR? So here we give an example for IRR. To illustrate the calculation of internal rate of return, consider the cash flows of a project. Year 0, year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4, and cash flows are given. Normally year 0 represents the investment, that is first term. All other values corresponds to savings, that is positive values from 1 to 4, and value corresponding to 0 is taken as negative value because it is the investment value. So our formula is 0 equal to minus CF0 divided by 1 plus K the whole raised to 0 plus CF1 divided by 1 plus K the whole raised to 1 plus etc. plus CF4 divided by 1 plus K the whole raised to 4. Here the number of years n can be taken as 4. So the first term, that is 1 lakh divided by 1 plus K the whole raised to 0 plus 30,000 divided by 1 plus K the whole raised to 1 plus etc. The first term is negative. So 0 equal to minus 1 lakh plus etc. up to the value corresponding to 4th year. Since left hand side is 0, this negative value can be taken to the LHS side. So 1 lakh equal to 30,000 divided by 1 plus K the whole raised to 1 plus etc. plus 45,000 divided by 1 plus K the whole raised to 4. We have to find the value of K because that value of K which makes the net present value to 0 is given as IRR. So initially we choose the discount rate as some particular value because discount rate is not given in this problem. Then by using trial and error method we set the values to 0. Here we choose K equal to 15%. So 1 plus K the whole raised to 0, that is 1 plus 0.15 which is given as 1.15 plus 30,000 divided by 1.15 square plus etc. we get the answer 1,08,200. So our target value is 1 lakh. Now the value is 1,08,200. So we increase the value of k from 15% to 16%. Actually, a higher k lowers the right hand side value. And if earlier we choose 15%, now we are choosing 16%. And by doing trial and error, we get the answer 98,641, which is less than our targeted value 1 lakh. So almost we get the answer as the value of k lies between 15% and 16%, because one is above the targeted value and another is below the targeted value. Here the targeted value is 1 lakh. For more accuracy, we are considering another method, that is interpolation method, because we know the value of k lies between 15% and 16%. So we have to accurately find the value. The formula for interpolation method is IRR equal to lower rate plus net present value at lower rate into higher rate minus lower rate, the whole divided by NPV at lower rate minus NPV at higher rate. So considering previous example, NPV at 15% is minus 802, that we have to calculate. In this slide it is not calculated, because we know the net present value is NPV equal to minus CF0 divided by 1 plus k the whole raised to 0 plus CF1 divided by 1 plus k the whole raised to 1 plus etc. up to CF4 divided by 1 plus k the whole raised to 4. And here the NPV value is minus 802. And NPV value at 16% is, here also we have to use the same formula, minus CF0 by 1 plus k the whole raised to 0, that formula. It is 1359. This 15% and 16% are randomly chosen by trial and error method. Sometimes they are given discount rate, sometimes we have to choose discount rate. We have to approximately taken the discount rate. While we do problem, we have to start some minimum discount rate. Start with minimum discount rate like 5%, 8%, 10, 15, and gradually we are increasing. And when we reach the targeted value, we have to stop and we have to go back to find the range of values. That is, the value of k lies between this value and that value, like that. And while we get that situation, by using interpolation method, we can accurately determine the values. So here we calculated NPV at 2 discount rate, because we know the value lies between 15 and 16%. Then by direct substitution, we get the correct value of IRR, that is IRR equal to 15.37%. Another problem, a proposed project requires an initial capital investment of rupees 20,000. The cost of capital or discount rate K for the firm is 8%. The cash flows generated by the project are shown in the table below. Estimate IRR. Here K is given as 8%. Also investment is rupees 20,000 and savings in all the 6 years are given. The idea is to calculate the NPV value such that we equate NPV value to 0. Then we have to find the value of K. But here the value of K is given. So first we calculate the NPV value. Then by trial and error method, we are choosing the range of K, and then we calculate the value of IRR. So the first NPV value with K equal to 8%, we get 2,791. We have to make NPV value to 0. So the discount rate has to be increased to make NPV value to 0. Here we have K equal to 8% and this value has to be increased. By trial and error method, we assume or we choose some value just below 8%. Here I am choosing 12%. And again calculating the NPV value, we get 495. So the value comes down, that is earlier 2791, now it is 495. So further increasing the discount rate K to 16%, we get NPV equal to minus 1508.5. It is a negative value. Earlier it is a positive value, that is 495 to minus 1508.5. So the K value lies somewhere between 12% and 16%, because first the NPV value is 495 and when we set the discount rate to 16%, NPV value is minus value, negative value. So we slightly increase K from 12%. Now for a discount rate of 13%, that is trial and error, because 12% 495 and slightly increase, we get some closer value. So here NPV value equal to minus 65, and hence we got the answer to 12%. The range of K lies between 12% and 13%. Hence the discount rate which results in NPV being 0 lies somewhere between 12% and 13%, and it is closer to 13%. For more accurate answer, we use interpolation method. As I told earlier, NPV at 13% is minus 65, NPV at 12% is positive 495, IRR equal to lower rate plus NPV at lower rate into higher rate minus lower rate, the whole divided by NPV at lower rate minus NPV at higher rate. By substituting the values, we get IRR equal to 12.88%. So it is another term, profitability index. What do you mean by profitability index? It is a decision making variable to choose some particular project. Profitability index is equal to present value of all future cash inflows divided by initial cash outflows. And if PI value is greater than 1, we accept the project. PI value is less than 1, we reject the project. And another term in syllabus, life cycle costing. We know the life cycle costing is the process of computing all the cost that the owner or producer of an asset will incur over its lifespan. Summation of all the cost. Or it is the process of estimating how much money you will spend on an asset or machinery over the course of its useful life. That means the cost include maintenance cost, repair cost, some additional improvement cost like that. So all these costs are taken into consideration while computing life cycle costing. The time value of money must be taken into account for all amounts, and the amounts must be considered over a certain period. This is a simple diagram for life cycle cost analysis. So it includes initial cost, service cost, preventive and maintenance cost, operating cost, and finally disposal cost. To calculate LCA, we have to estimate the following expenses that we have told earlier: purchase, installation, operating, maintenance, financing, which denotes interest, then depreciation, and disposal. Is a graphical representation between the value of cost, normally present value of cost, and performance. The graph indicates initial cost, failure cost, additional cost, and finally total life cycle cost. At some particular point or optimal solution in life cycle costing, we get the total life cycle cost. Next is life cycle costing related to HVAC system. We have plenty of buildings that have HVAC equipment which is near the estimated useful life. Probably the most widely used or widely known type of analysis is simple payback period. But the problem is simple payback analysis works for smaller equipment. For projects with sizable capital cost, we have to choose some another analysis like life cycle cost to speak the language in terms of finance. This life cycle cost analysis will include upfront cost, operating cost, maintenance cost, special cost, and end of life disposal cost. Upfront cost include initial equipment purchase and all design and installation cost. Then some operating cost have also to be considered. Special attention has to be given for maintenance cost. And the final problem is cost will fluctuate and there is no way to know how much or in what direction the fluctuation occurs. Therefore, for simplicity, the best route is to use known current cost of utility, labor, material, money, etc. for the estimated life cycle cost. So for the calculation of life cycle cost, we have to choose the current cost. At present, what is the cost of utility? At present, what is the cost of labor? What is the cost of material, money, etc. for life cycle costing? In short, life cycle costing denotes the overall cost of an asset from its birth to death at the starting stage, at the purchase stage to its disposal stage. So this is the worksheet for calculating the life cycle costing related to HVAC system. We have seen two efficiencies. One is the standard efficiency and another is the high efficiency. And in the left side, all other parameters related to HVAC system is given. Parameters simply represents representing life cycle costing. That is upfront cost, equipment cost, installation cost, operating cost, utility cost, maintenance, parts, labor, consumable disposable fees, miscellaneous, special cost, major maintenance, repairs, then end of life. And hence we can calculate the life cycle costing. Thank you for watching my PPT. I have referred Financial Management by Prasanna Chandra, Tata McGraw-Hill Publications, then data from Bureau of Energy Efficiency websites and other online sources. If any doubt or any clarifications or any mistakes in my PPT, kindly contact rahulcharles.ripley.cape@gmail.com.